my channel. I am a single mom of 2 kids, a teenager and a toddler, and I enjoy many things. Many of the things that I actually am not very good at, things like cooking and just homemaking and even homesteading. So this is my channel, just documenting as I go about learning and enjoying the process of doing these things. So if that's something you're interested in, stay tuned. My life is definitely not perfect. I am not a stay-at-home mom and I am not married. However, there are so many benefits and just a peace and a joy that I see when I watch these videos or when I talk to people whom I know are stay-at-home moms. And these are some things I want to incorporate into my lifestyle. So if that is something that you have also felt, then I encourage you to just start cooking meals from scratch, or just cooking if that's not something that you're currently doing for your kids, because you can do good things even if your life is not ideal. So here is our real journey. So I am cooking today after church. I'm slicing up some homemade bread that I made earlier in the week to toast, and I'm going to use that as a breadcrumb and just an additional filler to help keep the meatloaf muffins that I'll be making for dinner today. I've been recently swapping all of my pots and pans away from my regular pots and pans to all cast iron. I already had a good bit of cast iron, but I wasn't really using it, and now that is my goal, to use only my cast iron skillets and pots and pans. So I've been trying to increase my collection of that type of cookware. Now, I do not like to bite into a raw onion, and so I always cook my onions before I put them in the meatloaf. Even though I know they're going to cook in the oven, I just like to be double sure that my onions will be cooked, because that is just my preference. So I have chopped up some onions and garlic. I've also put in some mustard seeds, and I have that in some oil just sort of cooking up in this pan here. And I'll start to season the ground beef. Now, another change that I've made recently is I have stopped getting our meats at like local grocery stores. I order it from an American-owned ranch, and it comes delivered to the house. So that is a new development. So I'm loving it so far, but we'll see how that goes. cat are asleep while I'm cooking. Everybody's nice and relaxed. At least they were for a while. So at this point, I'm just putting in my cooked onions and garlic into the meat. And I'm also going to add in some of the homemade bread that I toasted. Some of it I'll put in dry, it's just breadcrumbs. And then the other half of it I actually soaked in milk, because in a recipe that I saw once, that helps to keep the meatloaf moist, and the meatloaf moist, sorry. And so I've always done that every time I make meatloaf. I wanted to do a loaf, but because I used a small pack of meat, I decided to do the muffins, and it worked out pretty good. There are a handful of things I can cook from memory, the basics, most meat items I can do, but I am really trying to get in the habit of cooking from ingredients and making things from scratch as much as possible. So I'm not making Jiffy Mix like I usually do. I'm going to actually make some homemade cornbread, and I have not committed this recipe to memory, so I'm looking that up now. So I just want to encourage those of you who feel maybe overwhelmed by cooking that we have the internet, and it is okay to look up a recipe and to follow it. We have to learn. It's with anything. We go to school for many years to learn to do a trade or a career or whatever your job may be. We have to learn how to even do things in the home. So I am having fun learning some new recipes. You see me adding buttermilk here, and also I have some regular milk in that milk jug, and that's actually just regular grocery store milk, but I've always collected like vintage old school milk jugs, so I have been also slowly making the transition to only glass storage. So I've gotten rid of most of my plastic containers that were in my pantry and in the fridge, and I have swapped to glass jars and containers. here I am just cutting up some fresh green beans. I have some seed coming because I do want to try to grow my own, because I've been taking a stab at gardening, and anyone who knows me knows that I do not have a green thumb. However, that is something I am trying to cultivate within myself so that I can pass that on to my daughter and just sort of bring that back into our family. My grandmother was a phenomenal woman, and she could do it all. She could grow everything, cook everything. I remember her pouring her own patio, literally painting all the things. So I definitely want to embody just her spirit of just being a Renaissance woman. Here I have some potato flakes I'm going to use to just make some quick potatoes. I have some actual potatoes in the fridge, but I do want to get through these flakes just because I've had them, and even though I do want to try to cook everything from scratch, I also don't want to be wasteful. So if there's something that I already had in the pantry, if that's not something I'm intended to use anymore, I am going to use it up, and then once it's gone, it'll just be gone. So that's what I'm doing here. And it was great because it was a good little time saver, because it's getting hot in that kitchen. Now, I know this may be weird to some of you, but we have always just buttered the cornbread or the biscuits or whatever it was, just using the stick of butter, just straight up right on top of the food. So that's how we do it. Now I'm just fixing my kids' plates, and we are going to sit down at the table and eat together, because that is also something that we've been pretty good about lately that we were not always good at, but it's always been a goal for us to sit down at the table together, distraction free, and have a meal. It's just such a blessing to me to be able to do that, and just have that experience with my kids.